going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the James Loud Podcast. And today our special guests are Horizon Lift. We've got Rod and we've got David. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing good, James.
Doing great, James.
Thanks for having us.
Dude, thank you guys for coming on. So we've become friends over the last 6 months. Originally, we were introduced through Grow World, and I thought you guys had an interesting product. You guys came down toward the facility and said that you thought you had a good product for us. I started getting all these ideas on what we could do with your system, and you guys had these ideas, and you met with our main grower, and we kind of came up with a concept that worked, and I feel like you guys have something really special.
Thanks, James. I mean, we think that, products shouldn't be pitched. They should be proven, So we created a product, and we're trying to get it out there and let people find out for themselves how well it works.
Yeah, so let's tell everybody a little bit about what you guys do and the lift.
My story goes back to 1981.
Yeah.
So well before the lift, I was involved in the retail sales of products in Portland, Oregon.
Right.
A little place called Light Manufacturing Company. There was 2 of us in the whole town. Spring forward, I got on Craig Hargrave's radar and ended up at Sunlight Supply, and I've touched over 2,000 products in this industry to date.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's been a fun run.
So I'll interject and say that's how actually we got introduced to Rod. Is we used to sell, we call it XRT, but you guys probably know it as a rope ratchet. And we started selling those through Rod. He found us and contacted us, said, I think I could sell a lot of these for you. And we did, and had a great time with it. And then he contacted us again. This was probably close to like 8 years ago now. And he said, hey, this is going from a garage and a closet to a corporate commercial facility. Mm-hmm. How do we take it from going from selling our rope ratchets in a closet or in a small, only 4 to 12 lights to 1,000 light facility? How do we actually make it easier for the consumer? He said, can you take what you guys have created with the rope ratchet and automate it? And then that's basically what started our relationship. And we've been trying to perfect it for 8 years now. And it took about 5, but we've been selling it for the last 3. So that's
and
how
the ratchets have been around forever. That's what we all used. Ratchets are versions of some people use chains, but like, I think that what you guys have is very innovative in the sense that you've automated something that we've all used, that actually can improve the quality of the product, improve efficiencies. I think it's great.
Well, the evolution of light hangers was jack chain. Yeah. Completely through the 80s, it was jack chain. Nobody moved their lights, and then it was the grow yo-yo. I think we all remember the grow yo-yo with the spring inside, and after about a time, one side would go down and you'd walk in your room and the light's sitting sideways in your room over your canopy. So the grow yo-yo was just an inefficient product.
Yeah.
We went to a sales meeting, and the owner of the company brought this product from Bimart and handed it to me and said, what do you think about this? And I said, don't say another word. Let me contact the patent holders. So I found out who the patent holder was, these gentlemen, and we cut a deal and became the exclusive vendor of the product. First time the industry's ever seen this product, and we called it the Sun Grip.
Yeah.
And we all know what happened after that. I mean, Sun Grip went crazy. Everybody started coming in to compete. The knockoffs started showing up, and unfortunately, it's really tough to stop the knockoffs.
Tough.
When they start coming, there's just too big of a floodgate. You just can't poke all the holes fast enough.
Right.
It's
like whack-a-mole.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, people that deliver free to your house and stuff didn't help that at all.
Right.
So you got a lot of direct sales happening in today's environment.
Yeah, the direct sales have really changed the industry. I mean, as a whole, where we used to go to grow shops and buy everything from grow shops, and we had, vendors that sent products to these grow shops that were real knowledgeable. And then you had people at grow shops that were extremely knowledgeable, and they would help you select the best products for your environment. Now everything is online and people want to go direct with everything. And I think that's actually kind of taken away some of the beauty of our industry.
Yeah. And I think, the one thing they overlook is, customer service versus price point.
Yeah.
It's great to get a great price, but if something fails with the product, who's going to support it?
Right.
There's nobody at the other end of the phone.
Well, and we've seen big problems in this industry with the lack of customer service from lighting companies to other products where there's a phone number and nobody ever gets back to you. And what do you do if you have lights that you've spent especially with these larger facilities where you spend all this money on lights and then you don't have customer service, or you don't have this, or you don't have that. And it's like, it's changed the game completely, and, it's less personable.
Yeah. And it's funny you say lighting, I mean, without customer service, lighting's got a whole bunch of holes in it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's hard to repeat a light over and over and over and hit 100%. All lighting has a failure rate.
Mm-hmm.
We just hope that's a small one. So knowing that all lights are going to fail at some point, customer service is imperative.
Right.
It's a disservice to just hand somebody a box and go, good luck.
When you guys are like Gore-Tex for lighting, right? So you guys improve the efficiency of a light. I think that there's a bunch of different interesting ways you can utilize the lift. But yeah, we're using it here, and we veg in a small amount of canopy. And so that saves us light. And then we're lowering them way down. And then as the plants get taller, we expand that. So we're saving money right out of the gate, right? And then we're able to dial the PPFD in and then change it from day to day. As the plants grow, we can raise it up, or we can concentrate the PPFD. I think it's a great product for that.
And I will say, sorry, Rod, but I will say that we initially, how Rod proposed kind of this project was, how do we get people off ladders? How do we make their lives more efficient? How do we save them customer or employee work hours? That was kind of the start of it. And we didn't even really think about increasing your yield, having more THC. That wasn't even a part of our equation when we made this. And this was almost just like an added benefit of being able to constantly have the PPFD in the perfect position. Then growers who know what they're doing, I've already been doing that.
Right.
But the average, let's say, newbie grower doesn't do that properly, perfectly. I don't know what the word is.
A lot of people don't even have par meters in their house.
Yeah, that don't even do that. And they're just going off eyeballing, or even temperature readers, which is also super important. So we feel like if we took the PPFD reader with the surface leaf temperature reading, we found the sweet spot to grow, which was an added bonus on top of not having your employees get on ladders anymore, and et cetera, for safety.
Right. It's all run from an iPad. I love it.
Exactly.
Or your phone.
Yeah, or your phone. Yeah.
It's a world of efficiency now. When I started hearing people go, how much can you grow a gram of weed for?
Yeah.
It's like, well, we never really cared about that. If you really think about it, wow, a guy's got to get really efficient if people are going to start playing that game, because there are some people that are pretty crafty, and they lessen the inputs and still get a great product. Horizon lift doesn't add cost to the grow. You're simply moving a light up and down, and it's 4 to 5 movements a cycle at most, for 2 seconds. So, it's a product that came into the environment, made it a better environment without adding cost or additional labor.
Yeah.
Because we all know labor is a huge component of a grow now.
Huge. Electricity and labor.
And like you talked about, electricity
and labor.
If you can save on those two things, then you're, I think at the end of the day, people want to grow the highest quality product possible at the cheapest price possible.
Yeah.
Like that's
Absolutely.
the goal, right?
Absolutely.
Without taking away from the quality is the most important part, right?
Right. It has to. Well, now there's this race to the bottom. And so 10 years ago, before all this commercialization, like this really increased commercialization of the product, you could get away with selling an average quality product. But now today, there's plenty of average stuff out there, but it doesn't go for a lot. So and also, how much do you produce that pound for? Do you produce that pound for $600 and you can only sell it for $7? That's a problem, right?
Huge problem.
Can you produce it for $3 and sell it for $7? That's a different story. But there's so much product on the market, like especially in California, we have this surplus of product, yet we only consume so much. So in metric, especially with the recreational cannabis, it's like recreational and medical, there's only so much product that we need. People want the best product that they can get for the price. So unless you're growing the best, you might as well just quit. I mean, that's my opinion right now. And so quality has to be the leading factor. And it starts with genetics, but then it's also inputs and all these other things that happen over a period of the life of the plant.
And back in the 80s and 90s, the indoor environment was the only environment, for multiple reasons, so I think there's more study and more time on the indoor environment than any other environment. There's a lot being done now, but I still think today, all the knowledge is really from an indoor environment. I mean, people are kind of feeling their way through hoop houses and greenhouses and double tiers. And, everybody's kind of finding their way through that right now to where there's 35 years of indoor growing out there.
And we probably wouldn't be growing indoors at the level we're growing at if it wasn't for prohibition of marijuana. I think
absolutely.
that we were growing outside and then people wanted to hide from the police.
Yeah, helicopters over your fields and all that stuff. And that was what was going on, right?
Yeah, and so we went indoors and then we're not allowed to research it, right? Federally. It's like you can't research it because it's a bad plant. It's illegal, all these things. And, we've lived in this backwards world and now indoor is fetching the most price. It's, it's supposed to be the best. I don't honestly think indoor is the best in every regard. I think there's a place for outdoor. There's a place for greenhouse. I think there's a place for light lifts in a greenhouse. I think
we actually are in a greenhouse up in Oregon that's helped out actually them quite a bit. So but supplemental, right? Like, so
exactly. Cause you have the sun.
You have the sun.
It's in addition to, and I think that's a great thing.
And, what I ran into, and, when you introduce a product, all sorts of things come out of the woodworks. Greenhouses aren't always structured the same.
Right.
So you have an amount of weight that you're going to put on that ceiling in a greenhouse. Some of them can't take it because you're using unistrut. You're adding too much additional weight to that structure. Some greenhouses can.
Yeah.
So, in that environment, you would have to certify the weight, make sure the structure is going to hold the weight, and then go, because it is a huge advantage in greenhouse environments.
Yeah.
I'm just cautious to go, hey, everybody put these up in your greenhouse because there is going to be structural integrity problems.
Well, I think the definition of a greenhouse is so broad.
Yeah.
Right. So there can be so many different types. I mean, some people consider hoop houses greenhouses, right? And it's like, but these Dutch greenhouses, the Venlo's, like these glass houses, they can support, they cost more than indoor grows typically.
Yeah.
So, especially for the nicer ones.
Yeah. I think Rod's talking about like up in Oregon, the greenhouses that have been there for 30 years. Because like we've actually sold to a greenhouse in Texas and I mentioned that about structure and they're like, we're waited for a hurricane. So this thing's not going anywhere.
Totally.
Big difference.
So but all these cut flower greenhouses that converted into cannabis and all these things, they're not all suitable for the lift. And a lot of people don't have power anyway. Not everybody, but power has to be a consideration too. But I'm a fan of supplemental lighting, light lifts. I like under canopy. I think they all need to be explored. We're exploring them together. We're doing a trial with the under canopy. We're doing a trial with the light lift, and then together for seed production. I think we're the only ones doing that right now.
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
Yeah, me too. And I think the results that we get from that, it's going to be really telling because I know that we're going to get more from the light lift. I know that we're going to get more from the under canopy. Now, if we combine them, what happens?
Yeah, what happens? I know.
And so that's a mystery, but we're going to explore that.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. I think I've got 7 years into this product.
Yeah.
And, every product that I ever put across the goal line, I personally tested. It was just a rule that I had with myself. If I'm going to tell somebody else to use it, then I got to know in my heart that it works right.
Yeah.
That this isn't snake oil. And, there's been some products that people just absolutely scratch their head at, I mean, I'll take you back to frequency water, right? I mean, my sales staff wanted to freaking shoot me. They're like, Rod, there is no frequency water. And I'm like, well, you tell me why I sprayed that on a bug and the bug is gone, right? And I tested it and it's water.
Right.
So, I mean, if you can tell me what I'm missing here, I'll go a different direction. But for now, I think I got the Holy Grail. I have no chemicals, no residue. I'm spraying water on bugs and killing them, with frequency. And I'm not a technician. Do I know that there was frequency in there? No. But whatever was in there, I tested it and it was water and it was killing bugs.
Yeah.
So along my path, I've run into some really strange products that, went, this is super beneficial for this environment. But people go, I don't believe it. It's snake oil.
Well, there's been so much snake oil out there. And then also we get these things and it takes a long time to actually perfect them, right? So like purple LED lights, that's a reference that we've used on this show so much, but it's like something that I did not believe in when I heard LEDs and I saw purples, the blurples. I was like, no way am I ever going to use that. You got a 6-inch tall or 1 foot tall plant. This looks like trash. I don't want any part of that. Autoflowers, don't want any part of it. But people are creative. People are persistent. People will figure out how to improve stuff. And sometimes, for LED lights example, there's a standard now. Everybody uses LED lights. That's Yeah. And that's the beauty of this industry too, is that we are innovative and we are creative. You guys have innovation. And I think right when we think we've got it all figured out, something else new comes out.
Yeah.
Always.
And you see that especially.
And it's just being a steward of the environment. You know, I mean, you go, I've done this the same way for over and over and over. How can I make it better?
Right.
And my job was to create products to make the environment better. And when the ratchets, all the data we collected on the ratchets showed us that people move their lights.
Yeah.
People tell me today, it's like, well, why do you need to move your lights? And I'm like, I don't know, but I've collected a shitload of data and people move their lights. There's a reason they're buying ratchets and not jack chain.
Yeah.
Right. So they wouldn't buy the ratchets if they weren't relocating their lights. And then I went around to a bunch of rooms and said, how often do you move these? People move them a lot more than you would think.
Yeah.
So knowing that, I went, well, let's make this easier. Let's automate it. What if a guy could stand in his doorway with his phone and readjust his whole room? I mean, how long is that going to take with the ratchet versus standing in the room with an application?
Right.
And so then I went to them and said, is this possible? And we revved it and revved it and revved it with weights and motors and on and on and on. I mean, it's not a simple process.
Yeah, it was about 5 years of R&D.
Yeah, 5 years of R&D, 7 revisions, is what you're looking at today. And I'm really happy with it.
Yeah.
We get the comment, well, why did you go Bluetooth? Not everybody's got Wi-Fi, right? It's line of sight. And I don't want the thing to move lights in every room.
Yeah.
I want them to move them within a certain distance so that I'm looking at the room that's moving and not the one down the street.
Right.
So, it made more sense for the environment that we were in. There's a lot of confusion in that environment.
I will add to that is that the few questions we've gotten about Wi-Fi versus Bluetooth was some want to have just a completely automated place. They want to be able to sit in a computer room at their house and be able to see a video of their facility and be able to touch a button.
Yeah, they want a sensor that
changes that. So we've actually looked into that, and the difference is one is sensors aren't perfect. Yeah. 2, your height of your canopy is never perfectly even. Yeah. It's always going to grab the top one. So we felt that it was just in the best interest of the grower to be in the room if you're growing the high quality, marijuana that you're hoping for. You're going to have to be there and be hands-on. You can't do it from a separate control room.
Well, and I think there is some future that does include stuff like that, where it's 100% automated and you have a sensor, and every day as the plants are growing taller, it could move it up if you're trying to keep the perfect, PPFD.
Yeah, if you had it,
or leaf surface temperature, or however you want to monitor that. I mean, I think maybe someday that's going to be the next
gen
evolution.
We do have that capability and we could actually do it, but we haven't seen that it's worth it at this point. But I do think that it will eventually go in that direction.
Yeah. I mean, I see the future is there's going to be places where they don't have a lot of employees, because the thing is what we need to do is, save money as much as possible, create the best product possible at the lowest price. And so they're going to take away labor, because labor is expensive. If we could take away electricity, or, turn down the lights, make the lights more efficient, that's another way. But either way, the cost of the product is extremely important. And everybody is very aware of every penny that they're spending these days, the ones that are still here.
Yep.
Yeah. And I've toured a lot of facilities in Europe.
Yeah.
Europe is very, very cautious on price points.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they have some of the most efficient grows I've ever seen. As well as I toured a lot of rose facilities over there.
Yeah.
And you talk about greenhouses, they got roller structures in them to where when they change the lights, they put a dolly up on top and they roll across the top of the greenhouse, changing bulbs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they build structure into their greenhouses to make them more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the most amazing grows I've ever seen in my life over there.
Yeah. I mean, some of those Dutch greenhouses are just unbelievable. You know, and I mean, the technology that goes into it, it's like you have the full control of an indoor with the light of the sun and supplemental lighting.
Yeah. And their technology is amazing too. Them having the largest flowers in the world.
Yeah.
Obviously comes from their bloom stimulant. I went over there and kicked tires on bloom stimulants, and some of their technology is just out of this world. Well,
they have so many years of R&D. You know, they've been R&Ding this stuff forever. Plus they have a really good environment for R&Ding in the cold, in the winter, extremes, it's like if you look at extremes, it's a great place to test stuff out in extremes. How well does it do when it gets below zero?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, house and garden.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
totally.
Very successful European nutrient. And, you know, I sat down with that team, you know, and they were completely happy with the distribution they had and shaked my hand and said, you won't be selling ours.
Wow.
So it was a bold move. You know, I thought I had the world in my hand. I said, you know, we're a national distributor. You know, we can put you all over the United States in 24 hours. And he shook my hand and said, no, thanks.
Yeah.
You know, and I said, well, back to home I go.
That's how it goes.
Not taking the bag of tricks home this time, you know, but, you know, I've seen some really neat stuff over there. I mean, Europe is an amazing place to learn, you know, about growing.
Yeah.
Not that America is, you know, that far behind them, but.
Right. But it's different. Yeah. It's different over there. Like, it's just like it's different here. There's a lot of great things. If you want to learn about genetics, there's good things you can learn in Europe, especially Dutch, Dutch and over in Spain and over in Holland, but also here. I mean, we have amazing scientists here. And I think we have people pushing the envelope in every region of the world right now.
Yeah. And if you think about it, you know, the one example I would use is Gavita.
Yeah.
You know, hey, Twan and Jair.
Yeah.
What's up, bros? So, you know, went over there. They were some of the first people I met and, you know, developed a really good relationship with them and, you know, was able to bring that back to Sunlight.
Yeah.
We did really well with that.
Yeah. I mean, they made a great light too, especially the double-ended Gavita when it first came out was a game changer. You know, and the first one I remember that was double-ended was the EPAP, that Papillon. Right. And so that came out and that was great. That was a greenhouse light. And then Gavita's like, just put all these indoors. People tried putting the EPAPs indoors, but really the Gavita kind of changed the game as also as far as like the quality that it put out. You know, I was pretty impressed the first harvest with the Gavita. And
there was some big players involved with EPAP.
Yeah.
You know, I thought EPAP was going to be the platform and
everybody did.
I'll tell you, Twan and Jair outworked them.
Yeah.
You know, they came to the United States and just flat out worked them.
Yeah.
So they did an amazing job.
Yeah, it was impressive. Guys. It was impressive. That whole period was really impressive because that was kind of the beginning of the commercialization of cannabis, right? Where it really took on a whole new, it was like this whole new momentum that we were experiencing that we'd never seen before. And it's like, what's next? What's next? And everything was bigger than the previous move. And people were getting these big grows in Colorado. And it was just the scale that people were starting to go at was like, holy shit, this is really becoming big business.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing where we had these hydro shops and there's these big manufacturers and they're selling and it's all going through hydro shops. The next thing is like, we're talking about farms that they're running acres and greenhouses that are acres. And, you know, even the first time I walked into a 20,000 square foot canopy, I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. And now 20,000 square feet of canopy in a greenhouse is nothing. You know, that's not very big.
Yeah. And what do you do when you harvest that amount of weed and you have no way to preserve it?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's a huge amount of product that is decomposing.
Well, yeah. And I think the thing is like a lot of people were like, we're just going to grow it and figure it out along the way. And it's like, there's so many components you need to really dial in as far as storage, drying and curing properly. How do you store it? How do you preserve it? How do you make it last as long as possible? Even if you're able to sell it, you still want to have those things in mind.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And, you know, I mean, dispensaries in the Pacific Northwest, you know, with the testing process and the time it takes to actually get it into the jar and get it for sale.
Yeah.
You know, you've got products that are 2 months old, you know, and if this wasn't preserved properly, you know, you got brown frown.
Well, that was the beauty of the medical days, Pacific Northwest, Portland. I was born in Portland. I'm a big fan of Portland.
Oh, shout out.
Yeah. You know, in Washington and Oregon and California, I spent a lot of time in those 3 states in my life. And with medical, the product was really fresh, right? Like it was sold compared to now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? It was like you bring your stuff down, you're a vendor, you bring it down, you show it to them. They want to get it sold and, you know, your money back, or if they paid cash, they want to, you know, get their money back for the cash that they paid right away. And so it was a whole different model. There wasn't the testing. I like testing. I think testing is great. I think testing is important. You know, it's tested more than any other ag product out there. But I think that's a beautiful part. But the problem is like the farm to table experience, right? Like how fast are you getting it? 2 months old, if it's preserved correctly, can still be a really good product. But if it's not preserved correctly,
you're right.
Like the seeds in the mail or whatever happens, sometimes these things, like if the seeds get hot and they go in the mail, you could have bad seeds. If the flower gets hot what's sitting on someone's shelf or waiting to get packaged, that flower is a bad product. Or it could be an inferior product to what it would have been before.
If it's sitting in a 1 gallon glass jar and the sun's hitting it from the window, you've got a problem.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to this. That still needs to roll out, and preserving the product, I think, is one of the big ones.
It's one of the most important ones in the shortest period of time that you can screw your plant up. You know, you have this whole life of the plant where you can screw it up, and it can take away from that big pie. Right. But that preservation period where you're drying it, you're curing it, you're trimming it, and you're storing it for sale or selling it, in my mind, that's one of the most important periods. You know, that's as important as starting with good genetics.
Yeah. And I hear it from a lot of the growers. You know, they're going, hey, I wish my product could get to the shelf faster, because my reputation's on it, and because it's not properly handled, I pick up some bad reputation because the product's not what I gave them.
Yeah.
And
I want to see direct sales. Yeah. That's where I would really love to see direct sales is from the farm to the consumer, where you can go up, you can talk to the grower or the hash maker or whatever, and you can talk to him about the love that he put in that plant and how much he cared about those plants. And you can go buy a fresh ounce or a fresh eighth.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the future. That's we've done that with breweries and wineries forever.
I would say that's the standard there.
I heard of a model in New Mexico where they were growing in the back of the building. They were drying in the middle of the building, and the dispensary was in the front. They had 2 glass windows to where people could look through and see the product drying. And it had a list of the fresh product available next week.
Yeah.
And I went, amazing platform. I haven't been to New Mexico to see it. I've seen some pictures of it, but I went, what a great platform.
Yeah.
California.
That is as quick as you can get it there.
Yeah.
California just came out with the new law, right? That you're allowed to actually have a facility that you can smoke and have food and drink now.
I believe that just passed.
Just got signed in, right?
And I'm excited for the future of that, for smoking lounges.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think it might change kind of like what you were talking about.
I hope it does. Because I feel like cannabis is a lot healthier than alcohol.
Yeah, I agree.
And we're doing it with alcohol. Why not do it with cannabis? And I feel like it's the perfect model, especially because there's so many passionate people. There's passionate people with alcohol, with wine and beer too. Don't get me wrong, but people that love cannabis really, really love cannabis, and they love talking about it.
Yeah, invested.
And then that just makes it more of an experience too. Like the second you can it's just like meeting you guys and using your product. I get this different experience. It's one thing buying stuff, but then when you meet the people behind it, then you start to understand really what the product's about, what went into it. Customer service is so huge too.
Yeah, for sure.
We've had a lot of people pour over the fence, from, different industries that didn't cut their teeth here, and you can sense that.
You can see it for
after
sure.
You've had conversations, you like, cat hasn't been around a long time.
Yeah.
And there's really nothing you can do about that. But, the guys that have been here a long time.
Yeah.
And they're knowledgeable. And the old school guys like me, we've always talked about it.
Right.
We didn't hide our secrets and, hey, I'm not going to tell you how I do it. And, we wanted everybody to have good weed.
Yeah.
Because if we ran out, we wanted someplace to go get it.
Totally.
So, it wasn't about, hey, I'm going to be better than you and I'm not going to tell you anything. And it's gotten really competitive now.
It used to be so much more community driven.
Community-based,
right?
Yeah.
And I love that part of the industry that's community. I feel like my show is all about community and bringing to light different people in the community that are doing great things like you guys.
The early Burning Mans, the early reggaes on the river,
they're amazing.
They were
really amazing.
They were totally different. Today's environment is great.
Yeah.
But it's not that relaxed, brotherhood it used to be.
No, but everything good has an end and it changes. Things
it
morph.
Does.
Disco. We miss disco. I miss disco. I don't know about you guys, but I miss disco.
I was around during the 80s.
Yeah. So but like Studio 54 and disco, it had its day where I bet it was so amazing, and I wish I would have been able to experience it. But things change, and we grow and we evolve, and the one thing constant is change, for sure.
Yeah. So. And I go back to the beginning when this guy goes, come check this out. And he had taken 2 buckets and filled one with pea gravel and was pouring water on it. And there were cucumbers, tomatoes were huge.
Yeah.
This thing was blowing up in his backyard, and he says, I think we could sell this.
Wow.
And that cut my teeth into hydroponics. I ended up making an assembly line. We were assembling them in his basement, and out to the UPS truck they'd go. And next thing you know, we had our retail store, and the police would park across the street, and they'd put cameras on the telephone poles. And, you know, the 80s was a tough time. You know, Nancy Reagan was out there swinging that bat, you know. She says, yeah, I picked it up when Richard Nixon dropped it, and I'm going to club way more people than he did.
Right.
And she wreaked havoc.
A lot of people did. A lot of people did. And I think some people unknowingly were doing the wrong thing. And now if they were to look back, they'd say, well, cannabis wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
Regardless of everything else, you know, it's like, it's a strange thing that we went through all this and people suffered so much. You know, it's really unfortunate.
Yeah. You think about a time when, you know, people got 5 years for 100 plants.
Yeah. Or for seeds. People got prison sentences for seeds.
Yeah.
You know, for this plant.
Today it's not a crime.
No.
You know,
seeds are considered hemp. We can ship them anywhere. You can give them to your friends. You can ship them in the mail. It's hemp. There's no THC.
Makes sense to me.
Me too. Yeah, absolutely. You know,
that's great for you. Yeah.
Yeah. So you started working in hydroponics in the 80s, in the 81?
Yeah,
or?
In 81, a friend of mine created the system and had me come over to his house. And we got kicked out of his house because we had too many UPS trucks coming for deliveries. And ironically enough, everybody stared at each other and go, you know, how do we sell this thing? It's a hydroponic system. And ironically enough, we took out a little tiny ad in Popular Science magazine.
Yeah.
Popular Science was huge back in the early 80s. Ad comes out first of the month and phone starts ringing. Every time we set the phone down, there wasn't call waiting back then. So every time we set the phone down, it would start ringing again.
Yeah.
And we sat there and took orders for almost 8 hours straight off of this phone.
Wow.
And we went, oh my God, people like this, you know? And so we went, how long is this going to last? Maybe it's a fad. Mm-hmm. So we stayed there making them out of his house until we got the letter from the city saying, you guys got to move. You can't run a business in a neighborhood. My friend started light manufacturing company, and we started buying rock wool for the system, and we upgraded the tubing. We upgraded a lot of the fittings for it. You know, we revolutionized it, and out it went, and sold $1 million the first year.
Wow. And
all of a sudden, you know, people started paying attention. It's like, man, there's a grow shop over there, you know, and it was us and, you know, American Ag was the other shop.
Yeah.
There was 2 of us in Portland. And ironically enough, if they didn't get what they wanted for our store, they said, well, I'm not shopping here. I'm going to shop at American Ag. And then guy would come in the store and go, I'm never shopping at American Ag. I'm shopping at your store. Mm-hmm. So we swapped customers for years back and forth because you got one choice or the other.
Right.
You know, and system did really well. And I started getting into product development. You know, we got that nutrient handbook out by Rusk. Right, way back in the 80s.
Way back, yeah.
And we all read that, right? And we all put in our 2 cents. And we built a fertilizer called Golden Grow. And what we found, and no one's done it to this day, is, you know, the micronutrients are tough to blend into a 200-pound batch of powder.
Right.
So you've got very small amounts, you know, other than, you know, you've got decent iron. But we went, you know, how is this working? You know, how do we know that every scoop is going to give that same micronutrient kick? We couldn't. So we created an A and B, and we created a micronutrient liquid.
Yeah.
So once we liquefied it, we have now divided it equally. So we had, you know, Golden Grow, Golden Bloom, and Micro Gold.
Yeah.
And we sold it for 20 years and absolutely made a fortune from it. All from that book.
I have a question for you because I'm real curious as to what you just said made me wonder, did nutrients start out as a dry mix that then went into liquid and now we're going back into dry again? Or was it always liquid?
Well, it was...
because I know there was 3-part for a long time.
Yeah,
right?
General Hydroponics was around in 1976.
Right.
Their distribution range wasn't huge. You know, you kind of really had to pull some teeth to yank it all the way up to Oregon.
Right.
But it was on the shelf. There was another liquid that we had that came out of the commercial industry.
When Ag had commercial,
and then there was Eco.
Yeah.
There was a lady out of Seattle that had Eco Grow, and so she had her own powder. Yeah. And so we went, you know, hey, look, you know, there's room for us in this game. So got that book and trial and error. Whoops, killed that one. You know, too much of that. And we finally got it figured out. And, you know, we had the hydroponic system, we had the hydroponic media, and we had the fertilizer for it.
Yeah.
And off to the races we went. I mean, it was a very, very successful business. All we had to worry about was, you know, people pulling in with covered license plates and Cops burning down the street after them when they left. And I mean, it was a tumultuous time.
Everyone had to talk about tomatoes. They couldn't use the word weed, cannabis, anything like that. I mean, that's how it was even when in the 90s when we used to go to grow shops. It was tomatoes or you would get kicked out of the shop. People would lose their shit, and
they would put undercovers in there all the time.
For sure.
And we would have a really good conversation. And all of a sudden, well, yeah, I'm growing weed. And I'm like, whoa, dude, you got to leave the store.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm cool. And that was I'm cool. Nah, he's a cop. He's got to go.
Right.
So, I mean, it was just crazy how they would just try to infiltrate us week after week.
Well, in Portland, they really cracked down on it and they made huge arrests and it was pretty gnarly for a period of time.
Yeah. Green Merchant.
Yeah. Wolf Seagal was part of that too, I believe. They got stuck up in that.
Alex from Grower's Edge.
Yeah.
Yeah. It got a lot of us, Yeah. I'd like to say I got away scot-free, but that's not the case. But that's a story for another time.
Yeah, totally. So David, tell me how you got your start with cannabis. Were you smoking in high school?
I did, yes. So I probably started smoking in high school and just have been what's the term for it? Just a casual smoker for that. But literally I met Rod like 10 years ago and just absolutely loved like this space. Came from the hardware background. It's a different category, definitely a different vibe and a different culture. So once we actually hooked up with Rod and Sunlight Supply at the time, it was like, oh, how do I get into this? Because I like the people, meeting people like you, meeting people like Rod, like every person I've met, I've really enjoyed, and curious people, intelligent people, always trying to find the next best way. Where I was coming from a different category where it was a race to the bottom. Yeah. How do we take as much out? And we don't really care about the quality like you spoke about earlier about cannabis. You want to take the money out, but you also need to leave the quality. Well, this was the exact opposite. We're taking out quality to try to basically get it as low as possible. And it gets tight and it gets hard and it's not fun. So once I actually came over to here and kind of been poking around and looking into things, it was like, oh, this is where I should be. And it's been good ever since. So I'm on a big, steep learning curve. Like I said, I've been in it for 8 years, but I am not a professional grower. I am learning daily as we go. So, which I also enjoy as well. Like I ask you stupid questions all the time. Like when I come see your facility, I ask probably the most basic, but I don't think
those kind of questions are never stupid in my opinion. Yeah. Those are the kind of questions that you should be asking, because if you don't know the answer, you might as well ask me or ask somebody who knows the answer. And then sometimes we stumble on some crazy ideas, with the light and with the system that you guys have. I love it because we've customized it to our own specs, right? Yeah. So we took the Unistrut and we painted it white, and we wanted to match the building. And then the Unistrut up top that used to just be stainless, we've covered that, or
white,
it's not stainless, but
but the steel look.
The steel we basically painted it white, and then it blends in the room and it really fits. And and depending on the type of light, you can really customize the system, which I like. I feel like, my partner is all about aesthetics. I'm all about functionality and quality. And he's like, how can we make this look better? Because you already have all that stuff covered. So let's make it look nice too.
Well, if you marry the two, then you have the perfect equation, right?
Exactly.
So you obviously need to have your quality and that, but aesthetics is also a very big component of it. And I will say your facility is beautiful. I mean, those rooms you have in there, world class. I mean,
it's a showroom too, right? At the end of the day, it's a showroom, and it's a showroom for me, but companies like yourself, it's a showroom for you. So we can share with the world our ethos, how we believe the plants should be grown, how the different genetics work together, and specifically genetics. It's like, we're focused on genetics. So it's like, how can we grow the plant to the best ability so we can show our genetics the true potential of our genetics.
Maximize your potential of genetics.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's a great showcase for everybody that's involved. I'm a very big fan of all the products that I use, and we're constantly R&Ding stuff. So I want to test everything, get as much feedback as I can, and make my decision on what I want to use for the future. I think that's the best way to R&D, is really get everything in the pot, try all these different things out, and then come up with the solution that works the best.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the way you also do it is another thing, is like you have it down to such an exact science, right? We talked about, you're only changing one variable for each test, right? We're not changing nutrients or whatever it is, you're changing one variable. And I think that's going to give us the best honest assessment of how well this would do. And I, like you spoke about earlier, I'm really interested in combining our Horizon Lift with an under canopy light, because we have done testing in facilities in the past, and not to be a snake oil salesman, but we've seen a large increase in the yield by moving your lights, right? And so they've also seen that with the under canopy lights. Now it's coming out that they're starting to see the increase of the yield, and the plants on the bottom are kind of getting a little thicker and like just kind of strengthening on the bottom. That was photosynthesis occurs at the top. It's not supposed to work, but yet trial and error, it's working, right?
It's working really well.
I'm really excited to see the difference of under canopy lights, our Horizon Lift, and then the combining of those two to see how, is it too saturated? Is it too much? Or is it going to be like, oh, wow, this is like the best? Or the answer, getting the answer for that's going to be big for me.
I'm always excited about the answer, right?
Yeah.
Like what's going to happen? It's, you're kind of like an explorer going through, Christopher Columbus, probably not the best example, but
these days.
These days.
Oh, come on, he smoked. Christopher smoked.
Totally. But being able to explore different things, I mean, that keeps me excited to come to work every day. And it's like, what are we going to find out today? Well, we already have a whole bunch of fires to put out. What else are we going to learn about the plant or about the way we're growing? These different spectrums with lights. That's what I'm always interested in, is all these different spectrums. We can do spectrum tuning, which I think is great, but that can totally be abused, and you can totally screw your crop up when you start experimenting on your own if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so many people are like, oh, I'll just do this, this, and this. That sounds about right.
Yeah. I think it's much easier to test with a fixed position product. Yeah. When you're creating your own variables, you're kind of skewing your own test.
Totally.
So I'm a firm believer in, here's what it's supposed to do. Well, let's make it do that.
Or at least use that as a starting point. It's like, let's start here and then maybe tweak this, or add a bunch of far red and see what that does. Or, I think some of these guys, they just want to go all over the board and they don't understand how to experiment. It's like, to really get a good trial, you need to grow it out and see what it does. And if you're comparing it, you need to compare it in the same exact way that you compared the first thing.
And, I'm not a lighting technician, but, what I see with the under canopies is they're getting really red, they're taking a full spectrum light, right? And they're basically jamming red up into it.
Putting a whole bunch of far red.
And does far red make it bloom better? Well, absolutely it does, It
also makes it get more purple.
Forgiving.
Yeah, I'm seeing more purple with the LEDs.
Absolutely.
Right? So now the sides are actually more purple than the tops. And I think that's really cool. For me, I think there's a demand for purple flower. I don't know that it's always going to be there, but right now the demand is to have purple. It doesn't have to be all purple, but people want purple flower.
That look, yeah.
They want that look in the bag, and or in the jar or whatever. And with these under canopies, they have that far red. Now we're seeing an increase. Also, we're talking about saving labor because you're not having to strip your under canopy. You're getting flower there, and you're getting more of a yield. So now you're saving labor. You're getting a bigger yield. And now what happens if we put light lifts in there? That's it's still, the question is to be answered, but I think that's exciting for me. It's like, okay, well, everybody else is getting the same results. We can all agree that under canopies are doing this. We can agree that you're getting better results with the light lift. As far as everybody's getting better results, they're getting bigger yields, they're getting frostier weed, they're getting, I think there's benefits that we can prove, and now, but nobody's combined them. So nobody's combined them for seed production. Now, are we going to get more seeds? Right? Because now every penny counts. The value of seeds has gone down. Now, if we can push that, we're increasing profits, but we could possibly be increasing quality, because a lot of times on the under canopy, you get better penetration if you're using light lifts too, right? So now the question is, we get better penetration plus we have under canopy. Are we going to get 100% yield in seeds? Because a lot of times I used to get a lot of white seeds below.
Okay.
Right, where the light didn't penetrate properly.
Oh, gotcha.
So
I think you're going to do really well now.
I'm excited to see.
Having light on both sides of it and being able to compress it.
Right.
I think you're going to have control of the throttle.
Well, and now, okay, the other question is, so we're going to do one run one way, but we're going to have to continue to do this, because I really want to see, okay, so if I veg it a little bit longer and I have a taller plant, okay, now we have a wider canopy. So can I yield more that way? Maybe.
Interesting.
But you mean
maybe
like
there's
blooming more on the bottom because you have more
because
room?
we got more on the bottom, and then we have the power from the top, and we can really dial in the PPFD.
That makes sense.
And I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I know that it's worth exploring. And if I can get more seeds, if I can yield more, and we can translate that into flower production too, it's like, who knows?
Yeah.
Do panels outproduce bars?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know any of this yet. You know, we're getting a bunch of data from people who manufacture lights.
Yeah.
But like you said, the proof's in the test.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, prove it.
Yeah. Everybody talks. I'm all about the proof is in the pudding, because I hear so much noise from people, right? There's so much noise in this industry. You go to MJ Biz and everybody's got the best light. Everybody's got the best this. Everybody's got the best that. But it's like, I need to go around with my friends and go, what do you use? What gets you the results? From the people that grow the best flower.
They grow the best stuff.
Right? At the end of the day, it's like the people that are growing the best, what are they using and how are they getting those results?
Yeah, I'll tell you that years ago, a gentleman named Neil Anderson came to me with a product called Micro-organisms.
Yeah.
Never heard it before. You know, I've heard whispers, you know, from a guy who was playing with it. He actually brought it to me and says, try this, you know, and I said, what it's going to do? And he explained it to him. And I was like, what? That's snake oil.
Yeah.
Well, Micro-organisms is real, you know, and after multiple tests, I went, oh my God, this stuff protects the plant grows better. I mean, once it colonizes, you know, and getting that colonization, you know, is a little bit of a challenge itself. But once you understand how to colonize that on the root zone, it's an amazing product.
Yeah.
And so welcome RTI.
Yeah. And I mean, it's something that's in nature too. It's not like we're creating something in a lab. This is something that occurs in nature.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, there's so many things like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, you're scratching the surface of all the different products, but there's so much snake oil. It's hard for the consumer to go to a shop and sift through all that information, because everybody's got the best product.
Everybody's claiming.
Everybody's got the new latest and greatest. And so that, you know, but as we mature as an industry, all these things get picked apart and people slowly start learning what the better products are.
Oh, yeah.
I do feel like that you're in the industry is it does eventually get to the best product quality. All of that is where everybody's aiming for, right? Like like I referred to as the other category is no one's aiming for perfection in the other category. And I feel like in cannabis, everybody starts out to grow the best, highest quality cannabis out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ego will lie.
Yes, that gets in the way.
Ego will tell you that yours is the best, right? Everybody thinks they've grown it. And I think there's this attachment that we have with this plant where we've grown it and we put our hearts and souls into it. And it's like,
and it's
this
hard.
is amazing. And it's hard to look beyond that. And I have a lot of respect for the growers that are like, this is good, but I'm going to do better my next round, or shit, this isn't as good as the last round.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, because some people are just
being
so
honest.
fixated on, dude, well, being honest with yourself,
That's
right?
what I meant,
it's really difficult.
Yeah, it's hard to do.
And we're human. I think it's just, there's human nature involved with that.
Always.
But even like the flower market, like you look at the flower market and what's available now, it's like it's slowly in metric in California, Oregon, Washington, Colorado, all these places, it gets better and better and better. And I think maybe that'll change. But what I've seen in California is it was terrible in the beginning. It's slowly gotten better over the period of 4, almost 5 years now. And it's like in the beginning, it was all hype. And there's still a lot of hype being sold. People are like, oh, there's branding, there's all this, and I'm going to sell it. But slowly but surely, the branding has to support a quality
the actual
product. You know, and
absolutely.
We've seen that with all kinds of stuff over the years. You know, I'm sure with nutrients too, like all the hype with the nutrients. Some of these companies where it's like, whoa, those look like cool friggin' labels, but you got to have a quality product to back it.
In the bag, yeah.
We found, you know, and I'm not going to mention any names and stuff, but celebrities don't necessarily sell nutrients.
Right.
You know, and we found that out the hard way.
They shouldn't be selling nutrients. The growers should be the celebrities. In my opinion, we should make those growers the celebrities, right?
Yeah.
The ones that are growing the best stuff.
In the simple product development brain, you go, well, this guy's a celebrity that's known for smoking cannabis.
Snoop Dogg.
Yeah,
we're in.
Yeah, totally.
Snoop Dogg nutrients, man. Everybody's going to want these.
Yeah. Cheech and Chong, right? They're getting in the industry. And it didn't quite
work out that way.
I would buy Be Real's nutrients and try them. Be Real, I think he's in a different level because I feel like he's more connected with the plant on the growing side. Dr. Green Thumb, but there's very few celebrities I feel like would be good representation for a nutrient company. Few and far between.
There's only so many things you can do with a nutrient. Yeah. It's NPK.
Yep.
And how many ways can you twist NPK around?
Right.
And the additives start coming.
Yeah.
Are the additives good or bad for what you're doing? Because the guy who asked, what's the best way to grow this? I just start laughing. It's like, there's a million ways to do this.
Yeah.
It's smoke your stuff. If it's high quality, you're doing it right.
Yeah.
If it's low quality, you're doing it wrong.
How does it taste? How does it make you feel?
There is no one way to go, hey, this is the best way to do it. You do it this way and you'll be the best.
Right.
I've seen people grow these plants 100 different ways.
If there was one way, we would all do it that way.
We
would all do it that way. But there's not one way, and it's a very, it's a live product. We're growing something that's alive, that takes a long time, relatively, to grow and to perfect. And from one batch to the next, it's agriculture. From one batch to the next, it's going to be slightly different. Even with the best indoor environments, you can still get different variables where you get a slightly different end product. Stuff's getting more standardized, but
then you get the guy that goes, hey, I jammed a bunch of stuff into a cow's horn, buried it in the ground, and that's how I grow.
Yeah.
And you go, it's good to me.
Yeah.
That works for me. Your weed's great.
Yeah. We're fixated on the look of the product too, which is, I think is, it's always going to have to look good, but I think we're going to go more back to the effect and the taste.
Yeah.
Instagram has really screwed that up.
Because that's what you see is those beautiful pictures, right?
Yeah,
so
it's like,
it looks
ridiculous,
that. But yeah.
And at the end of the day, maybe you do, but I think most people, if you showed them what you thought they wanted and they tried it, they'd be like, wow, some good old school weed, like the flower that we had in the 90s. I never got to experience the 80s weed because I started smoking in 91.
G13.
Yeah. But literally the stuff in the 90s was amazing. The flavor of it, the effect, the way it made you feel.
Yeah, that's when OG Kush knocked on the door.
Yeah.
OG Kush came hard in the 90s and it's like pushed everybody out of the way.
Right.
It stayed as a staple for a long time. And then you had some, side stuff coming in. There was a strain in the Pacific Northwest called Whatcom weed, and people would go, the hell's Whatcom weed? Well, it came from Whatcom County.
Yeah.
Right. People didn't make names back then. They're like, well, what do we call this shit? Well, we grow it in Whatcom County.
Yeah.
Call it Whatcom weed.
Right.
And that's how simplified the industry was, and I don't think, throughout the whole 80s, there was more than 5 or 6 strains.
Wow.
It was very limited.
Huh.
And you get some one-offs once in a while, but as far as, hey,
regional stuff, right?
Can you get some weed? And it's like, yeah, I can get G13.
Yeah.
Oh, can you get some weed? I can get OG Kush.
Yeah.
But.
Or Acapulco Gold, or maybe that was a little earlier.
That was gone by then. That was 80s.
But they had some regional stuff. Like we used to get, we used to get Mexican weed, but it could have been from anywhere. It could have been from Colombia, for all we knew. We got Mexican weed and it had seeds in it.
Yeah.
But there was even some good stuff. Some of that, the higher end Mexican stuff was actually pretty good. Still had seeds.
You used to get Oaxacan spears. And, that was good. And, you would get the blonde Lebanese hash.
Yeah.
It would come in big patties and.
Got you real high.
Got you really high.
Yeah, that's the stuff we used to smoke with hot knives.
Yeah.
You heat the hot knives up on the stove.
On the stove.
I burned a whole bunch of my parents' knives like that.
Yeah, you go to make a sandwich and every damn butter knife's burnt.
Like, where the hell are all the butter? No, I just hid them from my parents. I didn't want them to see any burned knives.
I guess I was too stoned. I put them back.
Yeah, my parents would have lost their shit over burnt knives in the door. I just kept them. So then it was like, why do we only have 4 knives?
Yeah, where all the knives go?
There used to be 12. Now there's only 4. What happened?
Because you can't hot knife with scissors or with forks.
Yeah, exactly. Probably could have used spoons. We never tried that though.
Never did spoons.
Well, you probably could have got away with spoons.
Yep.
Then it would have represented something that was uglier.
Never ran out of knives though.
Never ran out
Always
of knives.
kept a spare.
And there's more at the store if you need them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, good times.
For sure. So let's talk about your past with weed in the 80s. When did you start smoking? The 70s? Late 70s?
Yeah, I was about 74.
74, wow.
1974, I think I was 14, went to my first concert, David Bowie.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, these people are cool. They smoke weed and go to concerts.
Yeah.
And I was sold, and from that point on, it was Ted Nugent, Leonard Skinner.
It's a good sales pitch though, right? You get a concert, you see all these people having fun. It's like, how can you not relate to that? It's like, I think that's just an easy sell for a lot of people, especially younger. It's like, it changes your perspective of it, going to dead shows, going to whatever, seeing good music. And I think music and cannabis just go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And if you remember, people would stand up, they didn't sell you seats. So everybody would get down crowded and stuff. And then you could pass around fifths and joints and everything because they couldn't get in there. It was too tight.
Right.
And so the concerts were totally different. I saw Led Zeppelin from 10 feet away in the Kingdom.
That's amazing.
Absolutely epic.
Yeah.
And life memories.
Well, cannabis really tunes you in, which is what I like about the music with the cannabis, smoking, getting high on that level, is you really get tuned into the music, whereas alcohol, other drugs, alcohol tunes you out, right? Like, but you take some psychedelics, you smoke some weed, eat some edibles, whatever, and get that experience. You're tuned in, like you're hypersensitive to all the music and the environment. And it's such a great feeling and a great experience. And really, they're all experiences. And not one of the experiences are quite the same. Like you could go to thousands of concerts, you might have similar experiences, but not one of them is going to be exactly the same. It's like something that happens in time and it'll never repeat itself exactly the same.
Well, there's one thing that stayed the same the old time. Every girl you walked into in California was either Bob Marley or Grateful Dead.
Really?
Every one of them was playing.
Yeah.
And I got to be a pretty big fan of One Love.
Nice.
It's like, dude, that's our vibe. Grateful Dead pushed our vibe.
I agree. The Grateful Dead had a huge impact on the cannabis industry.
Huge.
Oh, yeah.
Still
just
does.
like Marley.
Yeah.
Bob had his place.
Yeah, for sure. And the impact that he's left is just huge, right? And
huge. And his message, his message just never got old.
Right.
Some of the music today, you listen to it once and it's like, that's enough of that song.
Yeah.
I never get tired of listening to either one of those bands.
Yeah. I mean, that stuff's timeless.
Or Led Zeppelin.
I agree. Yeah. And that music is timeless. It's still, and the Led Zeppelin was before my time for sure.
Yeah, me too.
But I still love that music.
Yeah.
I feel I'm very attached to that music. I still listen to Led Zeppelin regularly. Of course, Jimi Hendrix, Grateful Dead, a lot of Grateful Dead. We have Grateful Dead going all the time. There's a hard drive that has every Grateful Dead song on it right there.
Nice.
Like literally. Yeah, literally all the music recorded. There's a whole terabyte of Grateful Dead.
Did you go to a lot of concerts?
I did go to some, and then Dead and Company. I've been going to Dead and Company for the last 5 years.
Nice.
My good friend Ben has been getting me really good seats for Dead and Company, and
sweet.
My wife never got to experience Grateful Dead. She didn't get to go to any of the parking lots. And on the lot there was always an adventure.
Oh yeah,
and
craziness. Yeah,
and I got to go to. So I was in Portland Meadows in the '90s, and that was amazing seeing the Dead out there. And I got some crazy stories I'll tell you later. But yeah, I mean,
I'll tell you, Hart played out there and was amazing also.
I bet.
Hart did an outside thing and they had Dog and the Butterfly.
Yeah.
It was a big butterfly that flapped in the wind bend him the whole time.
Dude, communal showers, you can't go wrong. It's like, a lot of times. Hot days. Yeah, I mean, it was an amazing thing though. Another community-based thing. Like that was very community-driven. And everybody was kind of on the same vibration.
You're talking about their concerts?
Oh yeah, Grateful Dead.
Yeah, like they're almost their own separate town, like their community. Yeah. Like it was like its own ecosystem within that parking lot.
And very accepting of everybody, right? Oh, yeah. It was inclusive and not exclusive. I think a lot of the communities now try to be exclusive. And Grateful Dead was very inclusive of everybody and very accepting of everybody for who you are. You're allowed to do your own thing.
Do whatever you want.
You like good music. You're okay with us, right?
Yeah. I mean, these are people that had passion for the plant, not for the money.
Yeah. Well, that's where all this stemmed from. We're here because of that passion, right?
Exactly.
Like at the end of the day, that's where it all stemmed from.
Mm-hmm.
At some point we all had to make a living, but beyond that, it's like my passion for the sacred plant still exists heavily. I still am just super grateful for all the things that have happened to me up to this point in my life. The good, the bad, and everything. I wouldn't be here talking to you guys without a mix of all that.
Yeah, I agree. It's, it's been my whole life.
Yeah.
From 14 years old.
Yeah.
I went, wow, I feel good.
Yeah.
I'm not all bummed out. And, away I went.
Right. I never understood why cannabis was illegal because it made me feel good. It made me feel, and once I started smoking, it was like, I felt like I was home. Like I found my thing. And the fact that they've arrested people, the fact that they've ruined lives, it's crazy that it was so accepted to do that for as long as it was.
Yeah,
and we've moved beyond that. And I think our memories, unfortunately, people's memories are short term. They start forgetting all the crazy stuff. And people, especially the younger guys they never experienced the stuff that we had to go through. Even in grow shops, we had to talk about tomatoes. Yeah. I mean, it sounds crazy when you think about it. Like if you were to tell people 50 years from now, it's going to sound even more crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with all the bad things happening in the world, why did you put mandatory minimum sentencing on marijuana?
Yeah.
I mean, isn't there worse things? And it's, well, it's the gateway. And it's like, let me tell you what the gateway to heroin is. Heroin.
Yeah.
Right? It's not pot.
Or a pill.
I mean, if we're
from
going to
a
start calling
doctor.
stuff gateways, it's like, man, that first sip of freaking beer was the gateway.
Well, and most of the people that murder people, they're not smoking weed. They're not smoking weed. They're murdering cheeseburgers, pizzas. Those kind of, but they're not murdering people. I think the weed mellows people out. It also makes you reflect upon yourself.
Yeah, it actually makes you think.
Cannabis isn't for everybody because I definitely think it makes you look at yourself in a different perspective. And some people can't handle that.
Yeah.
Right. And so
hard to look at yourself.
It's hard to look at yourself, and it does kind of put things into perspective. And that's what I love about it, though. That's really, at the end of the day, it's like puts life into perspective. It puts the good, the bad, and the ugly into perspective.
Yeah.
And you look at that last can of green beans in the cupboard and go, man, that's going to be good.
Totally. Yeah. I remember college days.
Oh, man.
And I used to be a chef, just speaking of college, but like before I was a chef in college, we used to do the wild top ramen mixes. We've done all kinds of
cheese whiz and top ramen.
Dude,
you got gourmet dinner.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in an apartment, 1-bedroom apartment with 3 guys. We would mix tuna cans with whatever to get the protein. We had to get that protein. I love the tuna, but it's like you got to get creative sometimes.
Yeah, you do.
Where did you go to college? Was it up here?
I went to Diablo Valley College in 94 and 95, and then I went to culinary school in San Francisco. But yeah, it's like the Bay Area has been great.
Yeah.
So, and we have this huge Grateful Dead influence in the Bay Area too. So we've always had that.
Well, people like us sure appreciate you being a steward of this industry. Somebody's got to take it and, open their arms and, make it not such a bad place.
I'm just one guy trying to share everybody's stories, and I feel like I'm just this catalyst that's able to get guys like you guys on the show. So you guys can tell your story. My show is so much bigger than me, and I just try to really highlight the guests and get their important stories out. Really, at the end of the day, it's like we're part of this bigger thing that's so much bigger than any one of us individually. And to be part of that is really special. And I think the more we can all recognize that, I think it warms my heart, but also it's just, I think it's our duty to do justice to this plant and do justice to the other people in our industry.
Yeah. And the fact that you went to culinary school and now you're creating flavors and marijuana hand in hand.
Yeah, a lot of things in my life have kind of tied in. I worked for Charles Schwab as a computer, not an engineer, but I was a testing engineer. I did software testing, distribution. I learned a lot about business. I worked at Bank of America, Charles Schwab back in the day.
Wow.
And I've done a little bit of everything. I roofed houses in Portland when I was younger.
I'll be darned.
And Portland and Washington, over in Vancouver. I've done so many different things to get me to this point, but they all kind of circle back into what I do now. So even the cooking kind of goes into with the genetics and the flavoring and adding flavors to different genetics. And what I like, it's this mass amount of knowledge that I've had that I try to push into my business. So it's a lot of fun.
Fantastic work.
And I really enjoy what I do. So at the end of the day, I really love this. I love being a part of it. Being able to work with great people. We got a great team. I enjoy coming to work every day. When I don't, maybe I won't come into work, but I really love what I do. And I enjoy the stress. I'm one of those people who, believe it or not, I love stress. Even though I hate stress, I feel like stress is what made me. And I'm able to handle stress on a higher level than most people. And I'm a high functioning person with stress, where some people, they crumble. And I feel like the more stress you can put, I'm not giving up. I'm just going to keep fighting.
Keep pushing through.
Yeah. I found that, there's definitely different levels of stress that people can handle.
Yeah.
I had the, fortune of working for a gentleman for 10 years at Sunlight Supply that I'd never seen anybody in my life take so much stress.
Yeah.
And just chew it up, swallow it, and go forward.
Yeah.
I was like, there were days where I looked at him and I was like, man, my head would just blow. Yeah. It's like all the things that are coming at you right now. was brilliant. He was a genius at what he did, and that's what made that place successful. He built a team that was second to none. And so when he came and offered you a job, you went, well, I'm either against him or I'm with him.
Yeah. And
it's going to be a hell of an uphill battle if I'm against him. So you threw yourself onto the team, and it was a great opportunity. You know, being surrounded with that much talent was absolutely amazing. We used to call him Steinbrenner because he hired talent for the position, and, you know, we could walk in and just devastate environments.
Well, that's how cannabis has changed. Before you could do it at your house by yourself, have a good product, make a living at it. Now it requires a team, and I love the team, right? So I love the team mentality. I love the thing where it's much bigger than yourself, whatever. But like, there's something special about forming a good team and you becoming another piece of the machine, right? So like when I'm a component of the machine and I have these guys and we all fit into place, we all win together, we all lose together. There's just something special about that.
For sure.
So,
and you have a very nice team too. So
yeah, our team is really good, but that also translates to when we work with you guys or we work with this other company or we have these collaborations, you know, and then we all win together. It's like such an amazing thing when we're all winning.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
And if we lose, we all lose together. We can talk to each other about it, but when we win together, and it's a great feeling.
Yeah, and it's a lot easier to win together than it is apart.
It is, and we can. So there's no one person that can do it all. So finding people with their strengths and weaknesses and finding the things that are going to make you more efficient. It's like, those are so important. But yeah, working with people that you don't want 10 head growers. You need one head grower.
Yeah.
You need guys that can pull families. You need guys that can water. You need guys that can do this and that and this. Then you need media guys.
And you need the one guy that handles a lot of stress.
Yeah. Someone's got to do it.
Someone's got to take that stress.
And if they enjoy it, it's that much better. Because it's like, and you know what? Some people are like, no, you can't enjoy stress. Well, it's not that I enjoy stress. It's that I deal with it and I enjoy the outcome after.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm willing to,
you overcome it.
I'm willing to wake up in the morning, even when shit seems like it's falling apart completely, get out of bed, go to the gym and live my life and know that we're just going to do the best we can do today. Even if shit's fucked up, we're going to handle it the best we can.
Yeah.
And you know, and I think that's what builds good companies.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to go about it.
At least I hope that's what's building our company. You know, it's like,
I agree with you on that, James. Yeah.
So and it's a lot of fun. You know, it's a lot of fun meeting new people too. Like the podcast, we do a bunch of different stuff. So it's not like we got the book, we got the podcast, we got the seeds, we got all these different things. We're doing R&D all the time. So we have all these different things in these different directions. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of fun. And you really learn about yourself a lot more by doing all these different things, like what you like, what you don't like, the type of people you like to work with, the type of people you do not like to work with, because there's a handful of those, right? Yeah. And the suits, you know, I can deal with some suits. I don't mind dealing with business people, and I don't mind dealing with guys that are hippies, you know, like classic hippie, you know, it's like, because some of those guys have the best, ideas and stories, and, you know, it's all about being able to interpret people's information too.
They're generally not overthinkers.
No.
You get a lot of corporate environment stuff and they want to overthink things a lot.
Yeah.
The stony guys are always simplified.
I like stoners because I'm a stoner.
Me too.
Right?
Been fond of them since I was 14.
Absolutely. And I think that in business, I like dealing with people that smoke cannabis, that use the product, right? That smoke cannabis. We're in cannabis. Let's smoke. If you don't, that's okay too. I'm not going to judge you on that. But really, like, we can relate on a different level. If you're also a smoker, we can talk about the flavor of it, the way it makes you feel.
Yeah.
And somebody then it becomes more than money too, right? Yeah. It becomes something that we're both passionate about, something that I've dedicated my life to. And, you know, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I've never met a person at a grow that didn't smoke. You know?
I have.
I mean, people are in it, you know, for the passion of the plant.
Usually.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's, I have a couple friends.
You've been a couple places I haven't.
Yeah.
You know,
And
they all go, hey, we can't smoke here, but we can go over there.
Right. No, I mean, we're in this commercial world now, and I have friends that are really good growers that don't smoke, but I have friends that are really good growers that do smoke. And, you know, a mix of in between. Some guys smoke very little. And, but like, I love the way it makes me feel. I love talking about it 24/7.
Yeah.
Some of my friends can't handle how much I like talking about it all the time, but it's like, it's what excites me.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it kind of relates to the wine industry.
Yeah.
You know, it's very similar. And, you know, this is my forecast, I think you're going to see wine and weed soon.
Yeah.
Right. I think wine and weed is going to be a staple
together
because there's such a perfect marriage, right? It's a pairing.
Yeah.
Right. What pairs with this Pinot Noir? Oh, this Indica. Right. I mean, it's a natural progression.
Yeah.
So I actually have a question on that related to the wine. So like someone said this, your old friend, about the wine industry creating like the bill. Yeah. Creating basically the cannabis industry, creating the same type of thing where there's terroirs or there's
that's already happening.
And like you grow the best whatever strain you want up in Humboldt, and then up in Sonoma County is a different strain. So you think that's actually
it's happening.
It is.
It's already in the process of happening. And I think it's a great thing. I think however we can support the growers that are still around in Humboldt, Mendocino, Trinity, Sonoma, especially because I'm Californian.
Yeah, the originals,
but all over the United States. Mm-hmm. In wine, they have AVAs, viticultural areas, right? And so in cannabis, but based on terroir and location, I think it's great because if you grow sour diesel, for instance, I love sour diesel. Yeah. If you grow that in Mendocino on the coast, as opposed to inland, you're going to get a different product. Yeah. Same thing if you were to go grow it in Napa County versus Sonoma. Yeah. You're going to get a different product, right? And especially with outdoor where you have one cycle a year, it's heavily influenced by the environment, the minerality, all these things. These are all conversations we all need to be having. But then also going to the winery and tasting, right? Yeah. I want to go to winery and I want to taste that sour diesel.
Yeah, like where it's grown around the area and like you go to the actual facility and get to see it up close and personal. I think that would be a big thing for the cannabis industry.
And the winery model has already been established, right? It's already the brewery models, like the microbrewery and the brewery model where you do the tasting and you get the tour, like that's already been done. Like the footwork has been laid for cannabis, for sure. Right? By the alcohol industry. Now we just need to take bits and pieces to make it make sense for us and to be able to push that forward because everybody wants to go up to Humboldt. I don't know about everybody, but I definitely do. And I think a lot of my friends would love to go to a grow, especially harvest season, where you can go talk or watch them harvest the plants. And it's like, you're seeing the fresh stuff come down and it's like, wow, this is cool. Or some breeder. We got Jackson, Mean Gene from Freeborn. I would love to go see his farm where he's harvesting his genetics and see his new stuff for the year where he's either pheno hunting stuff or he's breeding new things.
Yeah, got it.
You know, I mean, there's a ton of guys in the industry where it's like, I would love to go see what they're doing.
What they're doing.
Whitethorn Rose. We talk about Huckleberry Hill Farms.
Okay, I saw your ad up there.
Yeah. Johnny's great. I would love, you could go up there and you get the tour and you can get a different version of what I think is coming. But I would love to where that's you just basically have a reservation, just like with the winery, where you get a reservation. You call their number. You got the private tasting room. You get your smoking jacket. I mean, there's all kinds of ways they could do it.
Yeah, I've heard rumors.
So in California, in California with this new law, maybe that would be fast pace that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, they really need direct sales. From farms. I mean, I think that's just a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think we're a ways from them being mixed together.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're far away from having them separated in the same environment.
Yeah.
It just makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
And what do you mean by that?
Well, I think, you'll have wine and cannabis in the same environment, but you won't have cannabis in the wine.
No, I don't want cannabis in my wine. Personally, I love good wine and I love good weed. Yeah. And I do not want any of that good weed in my good wine. I
think you just negated both.
I mean, you didn't create a better product. Again, we haven't tested.
I mean, I hope somebody does. And I hope they win. I hope that person wins, but I'm not going to test it. I'm not even interested. Yeah. I put tobacco in beer one time when I was brewing beer. I used to brew beer back in the day. I used to make sake. I've brewed beer.
Now, why did you put tobacco?
Well, I figured I wanted tobacco beer because, this is back. I used to smoke cigarettes and I was like, and it was okay. Like the beer was okay if you smoke cigarettes.
Yeah.
But if you didn't, you would get sick and you would have problems both ends.
Yeah. So that didn't go very well.
It didn't go very well.
If you graft tobacco with tomatoes, it makes a poisonous tomato.
I believe it.
Really?
Yeah. It's got to be careful what you
make. So I was going to say,
tobacco's a pretty strong product.
Nasty stuff.
And it has a tendency of taking over what it's hooked to.
Oh, yeah.
So years ago, guy mixed it and came out with a poisonous tomato.
Nice. Killed some people.
Yeah. Do not graft.
Took a few people out.
Nicotine to tomatoes.
Right.
Not a good outcome.
Interesting.
But everybody's going to try everything.
Yep.
Well,
so if people are looking to find out more about you guys, where can they go?
Well, our website's horizonlift.com. We're also on YouTube. We have all of our tutorial videos, installation videos. Pretty much anything that you'd want is either on our website or on YouTube at Horizon Lift.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
We got a great program running with Grow World as well.
Yeah.
Grow World's a great company to bring people together.
Yeah.
We've joined Grow World, and Grow World runs a program to where, they'll sample our product out.
Yeah.
Capture, what the person thinks about it. And if they like it, they keep it. If not, they return it, So it was a great platform. I've known Nick for a long time.
Yeah.
And I appreciate him taking us on. And
that's
and
actually been nice. So we actually have our first trial going with that. We just signed up with them, and we have someone in Southern California, and it's a great feature, right? You get a free lift to try for your first grow cycle.
Yeah.
So whether you get to put it through all of its paces. Everything's done, and then you can tell us how it is. And so this is a way that we can actually get a little more documentation too by showing people what they're doing on their weekly grow, how the Horizon Lift is helping. So we feel it's a win-win, right?
Totally.
So we feel like every person who's going to do the trial, if they do it properly and right, they're going to end up ordering more, and it's a sale for us. And if not, we at least get to collect that data and prove our concept more. We're trying not to do it ourselves. We want people in the industry who are actually going to be doing it from not a biased perspective, really. I mean, that's what I'm trying to avoid.
Well, you get people from Grow World, and the beauty of it is they're interested in your product already.
Yeah, definitely.
And so if they're interested enough to try it and then they get good results, they're going to order more. I think it's their model's pretty straightforward. I like it. I like the other ambassadors like myself. I'm an ambassador for Grow World. I like their products. The beauty of what Grow World does with me is I can pick and choose. I can say, yeah, I want to work with this guy, or no, I don't want to work with that guy. Because there's some products I believe in, and there's other ones I'm like, no, I don't believe in that. So I'm not going to put my name and attach my name to that. And so, and I think they do a pretty good job of, filtering out most of that stuff anyway.
Yeah.
But I like that I have the end decision, and it's like, because I think the podcast is a great platform for people. And,
fantastic.
I think I can do a lot of good research and development for some of these companies and sharing the information, because I'm all about sharing. At the end of the day, I want everyone to win, the people I work with especially.
Definitely.
So, generally the manufacturer's not the pipeline.
Right.
You've got people that are good at making products.
Yeah.
And the person that makes the product is generally not very good at marketing because they're product development people.
Yeah.
So, you run into some issues sometimes when you've got one effort going and you don't have part of the other effort. So, our introduction to you and, the help we've gotten from you is imperative because we don't do social media.
Yeah.
And social media, as we know, is what's happening today.
We try. We're terrible at it, and we're not very good at it. So that's just being honest.
Yeah. I mean, everybody has their strong suits.
Yeah.
Well, everyone has their strong suits.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we are going to be at MJ Biz together.
Yes.
You guys have a booth there, and I will be at the booth every day for a couple hours.
Yeah, nice. I'm looking forward to
it.
it.
So if people want to come see me and hear about my experiences with the lifts, I think with the videos that we make here in the facility, we'll be there at MJ with you guys.
Yep. We're going to have a couple of lifts at the show that we're going to be showing and operating, and we're going to have a par meter with the PPFD reader, just showing you how little you have to move your lights to drastically change your PPFD.
That part was really amazing, by the way.
Yeah,
the fact that the very slight movements can completely change.
Make a big difference. Yeah.
So, the other thing that I found interesting is what 1 inch of movement can do to leaf surface temperature.
Yeah.
1 inch of movement can be 4 degrees, and I'm like, wow, that is extremely sensitive.
Yeah.
And so then you start playing with your distances and you go, wow, here's the sweet spot.
Yeah.
So it's been a fun product. I've had some really good success with it in multiple environments. But like we said, hard to get the word out.
I got one last question for you.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on turning your lights down from 100% to 50%, 25%? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, as you know, I'm not a lighting technician.
Yep.
I have seen some testing done.
Yep.
And it does not just equally go down.
Yep.
So in these units, there's multiple drivers. And when you're turning them down, some drivers turn down further than other drivers. Spectrums change. A lot of things can happen.
Yeah.
And in no way whatsoever am I saying they're going to, but the chance is there.
Yeah.
It's not an exact science. I mean, when we started looking at LEDs 3 years before they came out on the market, and we just kept shaking our heads going, these don't grow plants. These don't grow plants. And then Fluence came along. And Fluence was the first light we got a hold of, put it a bunch over some plants and went, they are responding.
Yeah.
They are responding. And so there was the breakthrough.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody went.
That was the game changer.
They broke through.
Yeah.
Right. And so now here comes technology storming. I mean, I think 86 manufacturers, first show I went to, first MJ Biz, 86 freaking lighting manufacturers.
One chip, 86 manufacturers.
I've done a lot of business where those lights are made.
Yeah.
There's not 86 factories.
Right.
Right. So you've got, factories making multiple lights under different names. And, it's kind of a crapshoot right now to sort through the good and the bad. But the funny thing is that has a way of surfacing itself.
Yeah.
The bad have tendency of fading and the good rise to the top.
Right.
So we'll see that over the next couple of years. And I think there's a lot more light technology that's going to be out. I think it's the early cell phone right now.
Yeah.
And I think in a few more years, you're going to see some really neat stuff with, varying spectrums.
We're like right beyond that Motorola flip phone.
We are just past the razor.
Right there, man.
Yep.
We are right there with the big Motorola phone.
Yeah. And I think I think we've made strides, huge strides, but we still have some really big strides to go.
Yeah.
And light tuning wouldn't be necessary if they had the right frequency.
Yeah. And, you've got some other things to look at going forward. We're running out of peat, right? And, cocoa's expensive to move.
What about cork?
So I've heard cork, I don't know anybody that wants to use it.
No, DNA, I think
I've heard
DNA
it
Genetics,
used.
they were launching it. I can't remember who they were partnered with, but they're going to do cork as a substrate. But cork is also, there's like a limited amount of cork.
Yeah.
The wine industry uses cork.
So, that being said, the growth of the industry is going to have an impact on the renewables.
Yeah.
At some pace will outpace them. So you used to go by soil yards and stuff, and you would see the big black mountains that have been sitting there for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And those aren't there anymore.
Right.
The raw material is moving much too fast to keep replenished, and it's making a hole somewhere in the ground.
Yeah.
So I think going forward, there's going to be sustainability, efficiencies. I mean, there's going to be a lot of things that come into this industry, and all of a sudden it's like, you grow it for how much? And we'll all scratch our heads, but we're not there yet, and I still, raise my hat to the craft growers.
Yeah.
The craft guys are out there for a reason, man. They're generally the old hippies. Yeah. And they're growing for flavor and taste and all the things that we want. Right. It's not an issue of this is the only way I got to pay my bills.
Right.
So bless them because
they're still doing it because they love it. And there will always be those people, I hope, that grow this plant just out of love.
Yeah.
Devotion,
big difference.
And love.
And keep in mind, the craft farmer is having a child and he wants to be, grower like his dad. Yeah. So there's going to be that generational grower that I think we're going to see for a long time. But, you're going to see other entities pushing and shoving and, changing the game a little bit. Everything changes,
Everything.
You got to change with it. That's what I'm doing. A guy from the 80s doing a podcast. Right. You got to change with the times.
This is great. This has been a great podcast, man. Thank you guys so much for coming
James,
on.
You got it, man. It's been our pleasure.
Yeah.
Really
I look forward to doing this again and doing it in Vegas. Maybe we'll get you guys up there when we're talking at the Grow World booth.
Yeah, that'd be great. Definitely.
Yeah.
Coming up shortly.
Coming up just by the time this airs.
Yeah, it's going to be right there, right?
Yeah. So appreciate it, James.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe down below.